Welcome everyone to One Angry Black Republican episode 13. And this is a very important episode because what we're going to be dealing with today is the Bill of Rights. Recently Governor Murphy on an episode of the Tucker Carlson show, spilled the beans. I mean, he said in his own words, in reference to the shutting down of churches in New Jersey, the general lockdown in New Jersey, that has been going on for months now. He said to Tucker Carlson, when considering all of these measures that he put in place, he wasn't thinking about the Bill of Rights. This is a governor of a state in America who said out of his own mouth he wasn't thinking about the Bill of Rights. And wow, it's such a wow moment, that I decided to begin this podcast with something I did as a teacher. I would always, in those moments where I believed the students could use a pick-me-up, to, build their fortitude, to whatever we were dealing with as a class. But I'm gonna sing this, Negro spiritual, because I think it speaks directly to the moment that we're in New Jersey. Okay, so here we go. When Israel was in Egypt land, let my people go. Oppressed so hard they could not stand. Let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. I want to replace that last line with tell old Murphy, let my people go. Okay, so let's delve right into this egregious statement made by a sitting governor in a government by the people, for the people, by the people, that rely on the Constitution being followed, especially in such a diverse country and a diverse state as New Jersey. But, just to give a little bit of background, after, calls were made concerning, protections against, the government being able and having the power to suspend people's liberties, civil liberties, James Madison drafted the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, which we call the Bill of Rights. Okay, this was December 15th, 1791. And the most important, considered one of the most important amendments to the Constitution is the First Amendment. Okay, and it is the topic of this podcast today. So let me just read for you first the First Amendment to the Constitution. It reads, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Okay, the First Amendment to the Constitution. Now, this constitutional right is important because it helps the citizen maintain their democracy. It helps them maintain it. Not only maintain it, but it gives the citizen the right to address the government and challenge the government when those rights are being violated. That's the purpose of having the right to protest and to petition the government peacefully. Because there are going to be moments as all of the decisions being made based off the COVID-19 coronavirus that is currently plaguing the world. Okay, so this is important because at the present moment, there is a large percentage of people, in not just New Jersey, but throughout the country, that have questions and concerns about the way this crisis is being handled. Okay, yes, it is we've heard that it is a pandemic, and I say heard deliberately. We are still operating in a globally competitive world. It's to the point where in many places around the world, we don't really know what is going on. America right now is pointing the finger at China in terms of the beginning of this pandemic. And China is pointing the finger at America. That alone should raise our eyebrow to the fact that if neither of these countries can agree on where this virus began, okay, period. They can't agree on where this virus began. So the question remains, how do we, with certainty, follow any idea being pressed forward? Which is a legitimate question. Especially for the 30 million black people in America, because, could you imagine, the freedom of speech being suspended, during the civil rights movement? Imagine the civil rights leaders, being arrested, for what they said. And yes, that happened. And it outraged us to push even further. But imagine we could just remove, or politicians could just remove civil liberties for any reason. For any reason. At the beginning of this pandemic, we were told, we could go back to, just a basic timeline of events that, occurred, that, hit us all. And I'm just going to go through some brief points on that timeline. Let's begin with January. In January, and I'm just dealing with New Jersey here, okay? So I'm being very specific to New Jersey. In New Jersey in January, there was a doctor, a New York doctor, who flew in. He's from Fort Lee, so he flew into Newark Airport, and as a result of it was determined that this man had COVID or coronavirus. What we know, the public, what we know is that sometime in January, Newark Airport had, created a quarantine station for foreign travelers. Okay, so that could have been relative to the reports coming out of China, but Newark, New Jersey, Newark Airport issues a quarantine station for foreign travelers. Fast forward to March 4th. March 4th, James Kai, 32, of Fort Lee, the doctor we spoke of, he is, formally tagged the first person with coronavirus in New Jersey. Okay? He's the first person. Now, the next day, an Inglewood woman is diagnosed with coronavirus. On the 6th, a man in Camden is identified with coronavirus. Now, on the 9th of March, Governor Murphy issues a state of emergency. Okay, it's big. Especially in light of the fact that New Yorkers had been calling for a state of emergency, when the water crisis hit, which also, brings me to the science of, the fact that there's still a large percentage of Newark residents who only have access to contaminated water. Let's remember that. Okay, we want to talk about, all of these systemic, the systemic racism that created, so much blight in our community. Well, we were looking for a state of emergency, and that wasn't called then. But on the 9th, Murphy declares a state of emergency. And on the 10th, New Jersey suffered its first death as a result of the coronavirus. In Little Ferry, New Jersey, I think a man by the name of John Brennan, a 69-year-old brother who, died of coronavirus. So we had that first case on the 4th of March, and then on the 9th, the escalation based off of the next few days of cases popping up. And then on March 9th, the state of emergency in New Jersey. And then March 10th, the first death. So there's your beginning. Now here is one of the most important moments of this process as relates to the suspension, we might as well say, of the First Amendment, or the suspension really of the Bill of Rights. And I'm saying suspension because Murphy stated he wasn't thinking about the Bill of Rights. So we're going to try to identify some of the ramifications of that as far as the people are concerned. Okay, so March 15th. March 15th marks the day where Murphy announces that he's going to apply more aggressive steps to control the virus. Okay? Aggressive steps. You know, any time a state official starts talking using that type of language, aggressive steps, you know, that's definitely a moment for at least, especially black folk, to become alarmed. Okay? So, aggressive steps. So now, we're looking for those aggressive steps. What does that mean? What does that mean, Murphy? Okay, aggressive steps. March 21st. On March 21st, all non-essential businesses are shut down in the state of New Jersey. All non-essential businesses. Whoa, big point. All non-essential businesses. Now, that's, you know, it was a huge bombshell, you know, to drop in the middle of this, you know, situation. But what's most interesting after that announcement on the 21st, okay, let's double back, Newarkers. We're gonna double back, Newarkers, because on the 20th, Operation Lockdown is initiated in the city of Newark. I want to pause there for a minute because I'm trying to wrap my head around how that happened. Okay, because, you know, it reminds me of, and I'm gonna be honest here, it reminds me of that scene in Boys in the Hood where, you know, the black cop and white cop are patrolling, you know, the city of, I believe, Compton, LA. They're patrolling the community, and they pull over Trey, and, you know, his girlfriend, I guess, is with him as well. And, no, I don't think his girlfriend's with him. I think, well, I don't remember that part. This is what I remember from the movie Boys in the Hood. One of my favorites too. The black cop, his face, and the rage and the aggression, you know, he showed. You know, whether it was a show for his white partner, you know, because, you know, it's interesting how, you know, black people in power are so humble in, you know, when dealing with their white counterparts. You know, we see that, you know, it's like black politicians are, you know, like the butler, you know, in relation to, you know, the white Democrats, you know, and, you know, with that posture, it's, you know, we always go that much harder on our own people, you know, to prove to those individuals that we're capable of suppressing our own. You know, Mayor Baraka accused Cory Booker of this, you know, when he launched his, you know, campaign, you know, for mayor. I remember that, you know, speech, you know, on the council floor, you know, with those, you know, councilmen behind him, you know, when he said, you know, if you're willing to do, and what did Cory Booker do? You know, he appointed, you know, a replacement, you know, to a council seat, you know, which was a violation of, you know, the rules of order. Okay, you know, when he accused him of that, And he said in that speech, how, Cory Booker had to prove, sort of like that butler. He had to prove to, prove to Massa that, he was capable of, suppressing black folk. Okay, how is this moment any different when on March 20th, it is the four mayors, of four black towns connected to one another that go ahead and create Operation Lockdown. And here's the devastating part of Operation Lockdown. Operation Lockdown not only locked down all of the non-essential businesses on this moment, including liquor stores, okay, which interestingly enough, they suffer some pushback on that. Let's go to that First Amendment. Hallelujah. They dealt with a lot of pushback and then changes the non-essential businesses list to include liquor stores. Okay? So it is on March 20th, the day before Governor Murphy issues all non-essential businesses to shut down. So it's almost as if, the four black mayors, I can see them sitting in that meeting with all that charge and that, we'll shut down our cities, a day in advance just to show you, that we got control of our people. I'm caricaturizing, because I wasn't privy to that moment. I was, if I was a fly on the wall, I probably had more accurate of a description, but, I'm going to settle on, my theory, because why else would Newark, jump the gun like that? Why else would they do that? If they weren't all considering the ramifications of suspending the Bill of Rights, or not even thinking to consider the Bill of Rights when they start shutting down church services. Okay, because with this order, okay, so let's look at that alone. And, Tucker Carlson used this to, pretty much pull out this statement from Phil Murphy. It was very surgical. That's one thing I've always, admired about, Tucker Carlson as a journalist. Getting to, being very tactical in the interviews and the questioning that is, that takes place on that show. So big up to Tucker Carlson. I know, the mayor of Newark, not only embraced, Governor Murphy, for his quote unquote brilliance and, having the fortitude to suspend people's rights. Tucker Carlson, challenges that point, and, Tucker Carlson is thrown under the bus, which is also interesting in itself, which, kind of speaks to, the level of division between Republicans and Democrats, that seems to never go away. Okay. So the people are always caught in the balance. So on the 20th, Operation Lockdown goes on. 21st, New Jersey formally shuts down all non-essential businesses. Churches being considered a non-essential. So people of the Christian faith, the Muslim faith, are now being required. Okay, because I thought initially all of these measures were suggestions, but I guess when he issues the state of emergency order, he now has that power, obviously, from the state, which opens up an amazing, dangerous can of worms or Pandora's box. And, that box came to, the footsteps of, New York and New Jersey when Donald Trump threatened to shut down all travel outside of New York, or, out of New York. You had the Rhode Island mayor, governor stopping New York plates coming into the state. My question is, how different is that? How different is, which something I kept my eye on for a while. Donald Trump has the power to initiate martial law. Now, if he initiates martial law and he locks down New York from all travel and New Jersey from all travel, how is that different than, what we're doing in Newark, where it's like, Be Still Mondays. It's almost as if, the Democratic Party kicks you with a slipper on. Now, I heard this where they kick you with the slipper on. Whereas, the Republican Party is accused of kicking you with the boot. Okay? Either way, you're being kicked. And what fuels this fortitude? Because every time I watch one of these briefings, the first thing I'm thinking is every one of these, folks are in campaign mode. Every one of them is in campaign mode. We hear a litany of reports on a daily basis, giving the people the number of deaths over here, number of deaths over there, and then after you've been shaken to your core, this is serious, stay at home. You've been shaken to your core because of the numbers. You're being shaken to your core because of the numbers. And it's real, and your family members are dying. It's almost as if they're conditioning you for the death blow. Stay inside, social distance. We hear, frequently, this Spanish flu thrown in, our faces as to why we should be so, gung-ho fortitude. Same kind of, fortitude when it came to impeachment. Same thing. Oh, how dare you, even think about voting for a Republican? You're racist. You must be a deplorable. You must be this, especially if you're a black and a Republican. When do they stop that kind of pressure on the people? So many people are fragile. They got jobs. Imagine you work for the mayor and you're, have a position of difference. Is there anybody in that administration that has a difference of opinion? Is everybody aligned? That's what the First Amendment protects us from. That kind of tyranny. Whether it's an emotional tyranny, which is what it is. You scare people to death, and then the last statement, the nail in the coffin is, do you want your, what if you get coronavirus and send it to your family? Like we're wishing for our families to die. Now, it makes sense that, people working with the governor is going to support that position because they want their jobs. People will give up, their rights, to make sure they maintain their position or their status. We don't hear about the opposition. We don't hear about the hundreds of thousands of New Jerseyans that are totally against this reality. Oh, they're not for this because they want to see people die. Like, where do they get off making that correlation? Like, where do you get off making the assumption that because I want to question the integrity of what you're saying, you're the same person who, covered up in 2014, the water crisis that all of us in the public are now becoming aware of. I've been in Newark all my life. Was I drinking this water all my life? How much, when did you really realize that this was a problem? Was it previous to the mayor's office? Was it in as a council leader? When did these people find out about that? And how did they how were they able to mask it for so long? Did we have contaminated water during Sharp James's administration? What about Ken Gibson's administration? How long have we been dealing with that? We've been in power for a long time in the city of Newark. And from our history, you would think we'd be the most forceful voice in defense of our community and, in terms of getting resources. And then Murphy, it's difficult to, really drag Murphy because, this is a Goldman Sachs, a former Goldman Sachs employee. Yes, the Goldman Sachs that pretty much bankrupted, so many Americans, in their treachery and mismanagement and lying to the people. Goldman Sachs. This carpetbagger who just shows up in New Jersey and then takes the governorship. What did he do for New Jersey before he got all of your support? What did he do for New Jersey? I've heard mayoral in mayoral debates. It's one of the common themes. What have you done? For the as if one group has a monopoly on helping and organizing in the community or helping the people. The lonely teacher who buys supplies and works with students for years isn't considered that isn't considered work in the community or considered hiding. How do they have so much fortitude to make these decisions that affect so many people based on, and don't get me wrong here, I haven't advocated at any point that people should violate those orders. Although there's a large part of me that wants to challenge all of it. But we don't have we can't say that because our freedom of speech is being bullied. Every time a person of influence, a politician, stands up in front of people, or in this case sits down at his computer screen or their computer screens and, gives these, campaign reports constantly. And you can see it because they're winning people over to that narrative. They've won so many people over to that narrative. Everyone's in compliance because they're afraid in most cases. And they're afraid because they keep hearing the body count. These ones dead, this one's dead, and, these ones passed and perished. All because of coronavirus. All because of coronavirus. I mean, is anybody reading the death certificates? Do I have a right to say that as, being under the First Amendment to the Constitution? Do I have a right to say that? Is my heart impure? Am I the devil? Because I choose to question, the authenticity of, reports coming out of America. The same country that, has shown, even to this day, we're suffering because we don't even know who potentially has coronavirus in the city of Newark. Or these other 3 cities, Orange and East Orange and Irvington. Mind you, whose mayors don't do these daily briefings. I guess they already have, so much control over their constituencies. They don't, well, the Democrats have proven over the last 6 decades that you don't really have to do much in black communities to get your vote. That's the mantra. You don't have to do much in black communities. That's part and parcel to our disenfranchisement. People are afraid to speak up because when you speak up and you get financially executed, because that's what they do. Let's keep it real. You voice an opinion. You are not a team player. Anything can make you not a team player in any enterprise. And then you're executed. Out of sight, out of mind. We don't deal with those people. Those people are delusional. Those people are trying to separate people. No one's trying to separate anyone. That's, libelous. We're not trying to separate people when we have opposition. That wasn't Dr. King's mission to, we want freedom of movement. We want freedom of speech. We want freedom of, assembly. We want freedom of assembly. We want our constitutional rights. 161 summonses and 15 businesses closed. That's what happened when the Operation Lockdown began in Newark and Irvington and Orange and East Orange. 4 black mayors used what were supposedly suggestions. Here's where the big violation comes into play. These were supposedly suggestions. Stay at home. Suggestion. So we don't spread coronavirus. And it would have to be a suggestion. Reinforced by this constant highlight of the conditions. It's that soft pedaling that is disrupting many of us. That soft pedaling. The inability to keep it plain. Talk blunt. 161 people were given summonses by the state or the city of Newark, and 15 people's businesses were closed. How is that a suggestion? No, those are orders. Orders backed by state action. In this case, city action. Orders backed by city action. Did Newark, did these 4 mayors in their, aggressive position, were they schooling the mayor on the governor on what he needed to do? That's how I look at it. The Bill of Rights. And I'm going to take a minute to talk about said rights and the importance of those rights. Number one, the first, the 5 freedoms that are protected: speech, religion, press, assembly, and the right to petition the government. Together, these 5 guaranteed freedoms make the people of the United States of America the freest in the world. So, look at that contradiction. All of those rights were suppressed in this moment. And we aren't even batting an eye at it. And it was confirmed on the Tucker Carlson show when Phil Murphy said he wasn't thinking about the Bill of Rights. Oh, it is obvious you weren't thinking about the Bill of Rights. Before agreeing to accept the Constitution, think about this. The founders of this democratic republic demanded that these freedoms be protected by an amendment to the original document. And it became the First Amendment. It was so important then, and it is so important now. Especially in light of the fact that 15 hard, and that was at the beginning. Okay, you know, how many businesses have been threatened in this moment? You know, there was a brother, you know, a barber, and I keep hearing his voice when I was looking at this brother's plea. You know, he's he opened up his shop and he's cutting a brother's hair, and you know, he's talking very logically. He isn't upset. He's talking logically. You know, he's saying how, you know, he's cutting the man's hair and he's saying, I can't believe this is a crime now. I can't believe this is a crime now. You know, I'm a father. I got 2 kids at home. I got a wife. I'm responsible for putting bread on the table. I'm a barber. I need my money, I need to be out here making my money. You know, but the scare tactic of you're threatening your freedoms, threaten my right to live. I don't want to die. That's what we hear over and over and over and over again, like a broken record. And then we hear it, 4,000 people dead, and in 10210, these people dead, and this many blah blah blah. As if we haven't been dealing with death all along. You've been dealing with this death all along. As the mayor of this city, as the mayor of these cities, you've been dealing with that death toll all along. All along. But we want to talk about the legal ramifications here, because there are going to be some serious legal ramifications. You're not going to run from that. You made a decision, now the consequences of that decision. We still don't know how many people in New Jersey are in opposition, to what is taking place, and that is important to talk about. Don't tell me as an American I can't talk about that if I have freedom of speech. Now you could keep trying to convince people that I or others like myself who want to question this reality, you're not going to put that nonsense on us that says that we are in some way, shape, form, or fashion against people living. No, that's not the case at all. We want to converse and talk and be able to express what the hell we want to express without hearing your nonsensical rebuttal. And then you're urging of people to, stone us, because that's what you're doing. You're encouraging people to stone folk who don't agree with you based on some serious accusations. As if, when do you stop calling everything racist? How about that? Because everything isn't a racist charge. You just had us, yelling to the Raptors about Trump being racist. And yes, the government gave those suggestions as well. But what is different about Operation Lockdown and, Be Still Money, where everything is shut down? What is different about that than Donald Trump shutting down New York and New Jersey to protect other states from New Jerseyans and New Yorkers? How is that not feasible? And you saw Cuomo turn into a, outraged over that suggestion. Oh, that's illegal. Again, now you want to talk about illegal and legal, and then you urged people on a subtle level to uprise. You were willing to make people uprise in the city of New York and the surrounding states if Donald Trump was to do that. That's what you said. But then when the opposition party uses the same strategies or tactics, racist, they don't want people to live, who are the most dying from this? Black and brown people. Yes, black and brown people are dying from this. We've been dying from everything worse. From infant mortality to lack of quality education. You never talked about shutting down the government for that. Shut down the government for that. Big talk politician who, sits up there and want to browbeat people because they're exercising their constitutional rights. And then you want to get your thugs, intellectual thugs. That's what intellectual goons to go out and beat people up all over social media and beating up people because they express a difference of opinion. That's barbaric. And you should be ashamed of yourself. Because none of you deserve any power after this. None of you deserve any power. Let's look at Supreme Court case. Lozman versus the city of Rivera Beach, Florida. And this case is interesting because, and I'm just going to read a little bit of this. Let me just open up this. Okay, so now this was argued on February 27th, 2018, and it was decided on June 18th, 2018. Such a fitting case, to discuss in light of this moment where serious abuses to the Constitution have taken place. Serious issues to the Bill of Rights have taken place. These politicians have used their charm. They've used their constituencies. It's no secret why a mayor of a city would want to control the generations to come of school children. You plant all of your friends in to run schools. I've never seen a situation where so many buddies, held principal roles in a city. I guess that's the chess we play. Let's mind control the children for the next 50 years. Because we want to, maintain our ability to force Americans, in this case in the city of Newark, to allow their civil liberties to be taken out of fear. The fear of being ticketed. You don't know what it. I see these big gorilla police officers in these big SUVs jumping out on, blocks, and you got people sitting on the bench, covered up, distanced away from each other. We're getting ticketed. Pink slip. I can't wait to get the number of tickets that have been given out, that violate our rights. Religious institutions, another really big one, religious institutions, our faith says, we're not going to worry about anything. God is the best of planners. Allah is the best of planners. How many people agree with that? How many people agree with that? That God is the best of planners. Lean not on your own understanding. Have faith. How many of you Christians or Muslims are, allowing your faith to be, stripped from you right now? Right now. Because you're afraid of being called stupid. You're afraid of being called. You're afraid of being called, idiots, and people are being forced. Imagine if those individuals, in Kentucky, you throw up these, situations and scenarios that reinforce your position. You're an effective lawyer. Regardless of what information is put out there, we still have rights that you cannot infringe upon. So let's look at this case and how, vindictive officials, town officials, after a petitioner, Lozman, towed his floating home into a slip in a marina owned by the city of Rivera Beach, he became an outspoken critic of the city's plan to use its eminent domain power to seize waterfront homes for private development, and often made critical comments about officials during the public comment period of city council meetings. He filed lawsuits against the city, and the city's response was vindictive. He is arrested for violating rules of procedure in a council meeting. He's harassed because he opposed the city's decision. And he spoke out about it. Wasn't that what you're doing when you make a suggestion, quote unquote? Or was it a suggestion to lock down everybody's business? You lock down businesses, which we could say are arbitrary in some cases. If a person could walk into a bodega, as long as the bodega is having a line outside and they're letting individuals in, well, what's this, why then close down a clothing store? People don't need fresh underwear. Why close down a clothing store? Can Rainbow not have, protocols set in place where, shoppers are allowed in, 1, 2, 3 at a time, 10 at a time? Essential versus non-essential. I think it's arbitrary at the end of the day. But what is not arbitrary is that these are now laws that we can't violate. Because if we violate it, we are given tickets and summonses that, challenge our financial stability, or our businesses are shut down. Like completely shut down. This is outrageous. This is outrageous. And what is even more disturbing is that, what if, how many treaties did America break with the Native Americans? They make a treaty, the natives are all in, and then bam, the legs cut from underneath them. How many times have black people believed and had hope in America being upfront and honest with us? The Voting Rights Act. So the government issues acts in defense of black people. The freedom, release, the ability now to travel interstate. But that's met with individual protests. That's what it was. It was met with individual protests. Some of the same black people who fought in those moments, you know, like the freedom rides, you know, where they challenged, you know, the authority of, you know, the governmental order that they could travel interstate, you know, to have their buses met, you know, by mobs of whites, you know, have them pulled off buses and beaten. That's what happened. You know, fast forward today, and we got black politicians walking us, you know, literally into, you know, the sheep pen. And everyone is gung-ho about it because we trust you. When we trust you, that's what that's about. And then the arrogance, you know, to not only you know, marginalize our voices, you know, connect us to you know the desire to want people dead. I mean, literally call opposition voices the devil. You know, when are you going too far? When are you going too far? And who are you consulting to make these, you know, grand decisions? You're sure not coming to the people and asking what the people want, outside of a few stage cheerleaders. I don't know how many people in Newark support that. All I know is people are in their houses. And I listen to a lot of people in their houses. And a whole lot of people are not in agreement with this. You know, you just told, you know, hundreds of thousands of people to, you know, listen to what I said and shut up. And if you dare even say anything about what I'm trying to get people to do, because I'm in the business of saving lives. Oh, we're supposed to believe that you're in the business of saving lives now when you allowed so many goddamn years to go by of us drinking poison water. And then to speak with so much arrogance, while people's rights are being taken and people are falling into financial ruin. You had people in our, you know, culture who were willing to risk their lives to make a living, like so many Americans. Why is your fear of quote unquote dying by a virus more important than another man's fear of being useless in his family? Because he's a working class man and he goes out to work every day and he no longer can do that. Some people have a solid work ethic. They don't want to check. There are hundreds of thousands and millions of Americans who don't want to check. They want to go to work. And to act like that's not a concern, or that concern, you know, shouldn't be taken seriously, that's why people push against orders like this. That's the whole purpose of the First Amendment. You're doing something that we don't agree with as a government, so we're going to get together and we're going to push back. You're criminalizing that. What is the point of being governed? What is the point of being governed? You opened up Pandora's box, Murphy. You opened up Pandora's box, and you're wrong. And your flunkies are wrong. Because that's what they are right now, flunkies. You see, I'm not going to take some man's attack on my character when you don't even know me. You don't even know me, and I'm supposed to take your word because I have a position as a scholar. I have a position, and you want to attack me on some emotional level. Ooh. You know, I hit back, brother. I hit back. We are definitely in a state of emergency in America and in a state of emergency in New Jersey. And it has got to be dealt with. We have a right to our opinion. We have a right to express it. We have a right to challenge. We have a right to assemble. De Blasio said, he was going to organize a ticker tape, parade in the city of New York. Now, it's the same man advocating lockdown who wants to do a ticker tape parade. Now, I'm thinking about that ticker tape parade because, we could do that in, major cities where it comes to protests. How about 1,000 cars? Everybody be socially distanced in their cars. They're in their cars. They have masks on. They have gloves. Their windows are rolled up. And every car is right behind each other. 1,000 cars. Be careful. Get up in the morning. Make sure you have yourself properly cleaned and, you're hygienic. You sanitize. You got your gloves on. You got your mask on. You jump in your car. You pull your car up to City Hall. Right in the middle of the street, and you stop. You keep a lane open to the left or the right so that, any emergency vehicles can get through, because that's always going to be thrown in, the face of protesters. Every car lined up behind one another, socially distanced. 1,000 cars. Surround City Hall with 1,000 cars. It's a protest. Peaceful protest. And we blow our horns for an hour in opposition to these barbaric, social distancing, is our only weapon to fighting the coronavirus. You're not creative then. And you don't have faith in the people. You're not correct here, Murphy. The squad of mayors. Black mayors. Wow. I'm going to end on that note. Let our people go, Murphy. Peace out.